Hola community, welcome to Blender Today Live. We are back from a little break, 1 week break that we took to work on some projects that, well, one specific project that is gonna be announced more formally soon, but it has to do with the targets of 2022. Speaking of 2022, we have two announcements to do this week, two big announcements. One of them, it's not a call to action, it's just, well, maybe it's a call to action. Yeah, what is the action that you have to perform is to save the date. Which date? 27, 28, and 29 of October, because Blender Conference 2022, it's back. Let's not even consider the possibility of this thing not happening. Come on, it's been it has to happen. You know what? Because this year, 2022, marks 20 years. If you remember, if you've done your homework, you might know that Blender became open source. It was available online since 1998. And before that, it was available offline. It was sold. But in 2002 is the big campaign to reach 100,000 euros to free Blender. That's what made it open source, and it was celebrated by having a Blender conference, the first ever. So this year in October we celebrate, actually October 12th I think is the anniversary of Blender becoming open source, but the conference is going to take place on the last weekend of the month, which is usually for Europe, this area of Europe is the daylight saving time, so you get an extra hour of sleep on Sunday. So yes, will it be broadcasted? Yes, it will. Actually, the conference this year takes place in an amazing place from the 1772 or something like that. It's this amazing place in the heart of Amsterdam. It's in the Keizergracht canal. So imagine how decadent it is, but it has to be because, you know, it's and actually it's I think it allows even more people than last time. Last time we had up to 500. I think this one can go up to 600. Just in case, you know, maybe it's gonna be a big thing. But hey, this is super neat. A lot of room, by the way. These are just a few of them, but there will be plenty of room, plenty of places to hang out, and it's just beautiful. So I hope to see you there. If you can't make it, there will be an online event. So that is one thing I wanted to mention. And speaking of online events, the second announcement I have to do, this is the first one was a call to action. This one, not so much of a call to action, but only if you want to, because the Webby Awards are going on right now. The voting for the Webby Awards, it's going on, and Blender has been nominated to be as a best creative production software. And you may have remember that Blender got some kind of nomination in the past, but that was for the Asian 3-7. That was for Blender Studio. This is the first time I think that Blender becomes Blender. It's part of the software, you know, actual Blender being nominated. So go there, vote for your favorite software. I think Blender currently is in the 3rd place. So I mean, there is some really good competition here. So, but I don't know if they are open source though. No, I don't think open source is an aspect here. But let's get into the news of today, because there's plenty in all areas. We have new stuff related to colors, painting, user interface, animation. There is even some animation updates today. There is cycle stuff, geometry nodes, grease pencil, you name it. There is all over the place. Even faster importer of OBJ. So plenty of things to see. Remember, if you don't want to watch the whole episode, you can just look at the description. There is the links to everything that I'm sharing today, literally every link. So you might as well if you want, skip the entire show and go click on the links like I'm going to do now. And they are sorted more or less in the order that I'm gonna go through them. So the first one that I want to show is the big is the name of the episode, is the big change that it's been around for, if you've been using Blender experimental, so the builds that you download from builder.blender.org or building your own, you may remember there was for a while now the Sculpt vertex colors, that concept that you could sculpt in vertex colors. You could color in sculpt mode. Was a bit confusing. The whole the main idea behind this was to make vertex painting faster, basically, and because of the structure, the mesh structure that sculpt mode uses, it was a right fit. And also there is some potential artistic freedom there when you can sculpt and paint at the same time. We're gonna see some of these news later. But the first and the biggest one, is to basically unify. You gotta start somewhere. So basically unify the old system that Blender has for the classic system. Let's not call it old. Let's call it classic, legacy. So we are classic. Also, I'm not 35. I'm a 30 classic, a 25 classic. All right. The commit goes as follows: unify vertex and sculpt colors into new system. So there is a color attribute system. What difference does it make to you? Well, not that much, except that there is a big change in the user interface, is that there's no more vertex colors paint mode. So the mode now is in the mode itself, vertex paint mode, that hasn't been merged yet. The new mode with making it faster and all that. So it's using the old system, but the attributes system is here. So what you can see here is that there's no more vertex colors panel. Now there is a panel called color attributes, which is more correct. And from here you can create those attributes for painting, basically. So you have face corner. There's two domains, one where you can paint on the vertices themselves or in face corners, which is the default usually. Remember, like that case where you can paint on a corner and the rest of the other faces connected to that vertex were not painted. Well, that is face corner. You can also create an attribute from here. You can name it, give it a domain, vertex or face corner, and it has two options: color, byte color or just regular float point attributes. So this is pretty neat because it makes it closer to, it's just all attributes. In the end, there is attributes for everything, and the moment you make it a color, it just shows up here. So in the end, it's all attributes. Vertex groups, it's just instead of a color, it's just a value of a floating point value in a vertex. Then the same with pretty much everything else. A shape key is a position of it has some other extra goodies there, but it's also a position of a vertex, right? So it makes sense that that this is unified. There's more to come later, so stay tuned for that. You can read the commit log, you can see the excitement of the community here, but there's no vertex paint mode. That is being reviewed in a separate patch that is yet to come. But exciting times ahead in it. Okay, next. There's more painting stuff, but I'm gonna tackle those later. First, then let me go into the wait, I didn't do the sound stuff today. Let me do the sound stuff, such as ding user interface. So let's talk a little bit about my favorite. I know we have a whole new color system, but my favorite feature of the week, I should have a special sound for this. It's like my feature of the week and a transition is Tooltip's description. Tooltip support for nodes, labels, node sockets, nodes stuff, No, not the labels, but the sliders. So if you are new to Blender, this might not make a lot of sense. It's like, yeah, tooltips. What the heck? That's like 90s stuff. Well, Blender was a bit stuck in the 90s regarding tooltips in nodes. Even though the nodes has been around since 2005 in Blender, 2006 the actual release of Elephant's Dream. But when you mouse over on these settings, it will always say like something about socket uncommented, something like that. Like it didn't really make any sense. So there's been a lot of requests from the community. There was even plenty of right-click select documents about this. There was this very nice proposal, even like specifying the area. Super well done. Who made this proposal? Liao, thank you for doing it, and also contributing to Sprite Fright and Blender Studio and the development fund. So this is super exciting. It is here. However, don't expect, and this is where you come in, don't expect tooltips to appear everywhere. You will still, when you mouse over, you will still see the tooltips where there weren't any. The bad tooltips, because this is adding support for it, but not the actual tooltips. That is a huge amount of work that hopefully the community can take over. If you know more or less what each one of the sliders do, there are plenty of examples. If you need help on that, there is a Blender.chat. The community there can help you. If you need help building Blender, usually on the wiki you get most of the information, but if you have any issue, there is Blender-builds, a channel just dedicated for that. Then there is support, of course, and there is the respective module channels, like shading, if you want to tweak the tooltips. For example, if you are here in shading, for example, and you know what vase color means, you know what it is. What is vase color? Well, you can just if you know how to compile Blender and find this setting, which you can probably do via like the tooltips, like the Python tooltips, maybe like the RNA. Yeah, this would be pretty handy to do, but it needs the help from the community. So if you actually here for geometry nodes, Lucas mentions that if you want to have an example on how to add socket descriptions, check the cylinder node, and that way you can see what you can copy paste, and hopefully this can become a community effort and everybody can contribute and have it. What else? Especially because if you add it to the actual definition of a tooltip, it will be reflected in the manual. So it's actually a win-win for everyone. It's also going to be updated in the manual. So okay, next update, it's related to UDIMs. So the UDIM grid options now have been moved into the overlay panel. This is a change that it like functionally doesn't change much, other than when you like it used to be in its own grid, in its own panel on the sidebar, but it didn't really make a lot of sense to be there because there is already a grid section usually in the 3D viewport in the overlays. So it made sense to have one in the image editor and group it there, so you can define if you want a grid or not, if you want fixed subdivisions, or if you want to be automatic depending on the zoom. That's the default at the moment, and you can set the tiles here. So tiles is basically the UDIM tiles. So yeah, pretty neat, super simple. Actually, I could show it here. Actually, why am I showing screenshots? Oh, I'm in paint mode, view mode. Am I even in the right? No, maybe I should. 3.2 alpha, yes. Oh, I didn't have a UV. Next. Some changes in the UI. This is a more of like a public service announcement. If you can't find the hair panel for Eevee or cycles, it has been renamed. Now it's called curves, because that is what That's what it means usually. Changes the use of hair in render settings, UI, in the property editor, and the hair info node. It's renamed to curves because internally it's just curves. It's not really related to one specific type of curve that is more generic. So that's something that you need to look out if you are making tutorials. If you're following tutorials that use a hair, that now it's going to be curved. So keep that in mind. Then what else? There is, well, this doesn't have any change right now, but it will have in the future. That Blender font system now, like font for the view, for displaying, for the interface, has support for subpixel positioning. So it's not here yet, I think, the visual changes, but they will come. And I love it how Harley really goes into this detail, like zooming in, making sure that everything is nice and crisp. The other update is related to the action space, the dope sheet action. Now, actually I should have added this not to the UI but to the Python API, because this doesn't expose anything for the user yet. However, it makes it possible to use Python gizmos in the action editor or dope sheet editor. For example, if you want to interact, and if you want to tweak the start and end frame with a gizmo, you could do it. And there is actually even a little Python file there where you can copy paste this. You can make it into an add-on and then have it the add-on. So good. That what kind of gizmos would be cool to have? Actually, this is super neat. If it could get on the way, I guess. I wonder if you need a, or maybe if it was. Now the thing is that it can get on the way. Like if you don't have any keyframes, it's fine. But if you had keyframes here, then it couldn't get on the way. So yeah. Next, let's see. In the rend, yeah, there is two new operator. Actually, I should have added this to cycles. I have cycles later. I have a bit of a mix of, because it's been 2 weeks of updates. So this should have been in cycles. However, in the cycles section, let's just mention it here. There's 2 new operators to add all the used light groups or remove all the unused light groups as part of the light group system, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. There's some updates there. I'm going to talk about it in the next section, the later section. The next section, it's going to be surprise. Okay, you know what is a surprise? Speaking of surprises, nice segue there, because have you ever start writing some add-ons or even just messing with some Python code inside of Blender, just not for add-ons? Well, you always had to have the if you had some errors, it will show in a error in a report, like a pop-up, but then it will go away. So if you didn't have the terminal open, the console, you would miss those messages. Not anymore. Now the Python errors are now properly sent and displayed in the scripting section. So if you are writing some, sorry, in the terminal, in the built-in info editor. So say you have like import BP. This doesn't exist, right? This BPY. By the way, there is like a shameless plug. There is a t-shirt with the import VPY. So if you do it is for female and male models of the import VPY. So if you like this, if you like to code Python, then you should there you go, you should get it and help Blender, help Blender not fail. However, when it fails, you want to know why it failed. So I just tried to run a module that doesn't exist. So Blender complained. It complained in the terminal, but also in the here in the module, in the Python. Actually, didn't complain in the terminal. Or it did. Oh yeah, it's a okay, yes, it's a separate. You like my flashing window? That's okay, yeah, it did it. It did it here. That's a feature of the update that I had on my POPOS. Yeah, so Python module errors or any Python error now is going to be displayed in the info editor. Super neat. The next update, actually, we're going to change sections. Let's change to animation. We don't talk often about animation updates, but it has been a few this week. So the first one is new operators for selecting the markers before and after or after the current frame. So the same way, I think well, there is one for keyframes too, where you can select keyframes from one side and from the other side, right? I think if we go to animation, we do some keyframing stuff there. If you do control click, yeah, depends on where you click, it lets you select from one side or the other of the current frame. Well, you can do that now with operators for selecting the markers on the left or on the right side. There is an entry on the menu, or you can just use the operator. The next update is actually related to markers. So renaming markers has been since day one, since the moment they were added. You could rename them by using Control M, which was convenient because you could hit M to add a marker, Control M to rename it, but it was a bit weird because Control M in Blender usually it's for mirror stuff, right? In the object mode, in edit mode, even in the animation editors, Control M is for mirror the keys. So Control M was a bit of a weird, a weird concept. Not anymore. Now that shortcut has been changed. So this is also a public service announcement. The shortcut is the universal shortcut for renaming, which is F2. F2 is used everywhere already in Blender. If you're in the viewport, it does one thing. If you're in the compositor, it renames the node label, so you can quickly rename nodes. If you're my favorite is to use it for these little guys, the reroutes. So if you do F2 reroute, and now they even look great thanks to the fix by Leon the other day. So super neat. F2 for the win. You have to have the mouse over this area. If you don't do it here, it's object name still. If you do it here, is marker name. So yay for that. Is it the marker icon? I thought it was like a bookmark. That looks like a time. Anyway, okay. The next change is related to shortcuts and related to animation as well. Have you ever noticed how you couldn't add, for the last few versions, actually since 2.7, you couldn't set a shortcut for inserting a type of keyframe? You could have a shortcut for insert keyframe, which is the I key, but you didn't have an option for these specific modes. Now you can. This has been refactored by Campbell, and now it allows you to basically right click, change shortcut, or assign shortcut. You can also add it to favorites, to quick favorites, and you can also manually change it by setting the by using the operator called keyframe insert by name. It's not just the keyframe insert. That one is the menu itself, like the actual menu. So you need to use keyframe insert by name. All right, next change. Actually, this one is related to object set parenting, and these two patches are by Wady Mouse. So the first one is a new entry in the set parent menu. It's called keep transform without inverse. So you can set the parent, but you keep the transform without the inverse. So The operators preserves the child's worth transform without using the parent's inverse matrix. Effectively, we are setting the child's origin to the parent. When the child has an identical local transform, then the child is world space aligned when it's parent. The scale is excluded. So if you understood anything that I said, you're good to go. If you don't understand, then go and check out the link. Again, all the links to everything that I'm seeing here today and every day is on the description. So look for set parent in the description. And there is even a video description, and super neat. It's actually fixing a bug report. So yay for that. And the other change also by Wadey is like the description itself is huge. Like there's a whole going on here, even more than I can grasp. But if I understand correct, so the commit goes as follow: keyframe remap through upper strips in the NLA. This is for the nonlinear animation editor. So that's a new operator called start tweaking strip actions full stack. And apparently this used to start from the bottom. So basically allows you to insert keyframes and preserve the pose that you visually keyed while upper strips are evaluating. So in the NLA you can have a stack of strips. So this seems to be to allow you to tweak those strip actions, taking into account the full stack and not the bottom one only. So that's what I understand from what I could read. I'm not super familiar with the NLA functionality, but this sounds like a big one, especially when you look at the commit itself. There is a section with some limitations, something that's going to break, but if you can provide feedback, that would be amazing. So, and also maybe explain these things. Okay, next update. Actually, I'm done with the animation area. Let's talk about geometry nodes. There is quite a few changes. Curves is big this week and every week. So let's talk a little bit about the new. This is a mix of experimental. So you know, Blender's curve object has been in a big refactor since months now, and it's still experimental. There is a new object type that you can enable in the user preferences under the experimental section, which is only enabled when you have developer extras, which I think we shouldn't. I think experimental should just be experimental there, and just a big warning that things gonna go out, because gonna go bad if you save your Blender with that. But yeah, developer X, it's not really for developers anymore. I think the users should also be exposed to this. Anyway, new curves type. This option allows you to have a new setting in the menu that says curves. It has a different icon, that's how you can tell. And it has two options at the moment, but this is using the new object mode basically. There is new tools, new sculpt mode. We talked about it in the past, but now this object type allows you to use geometry nodes, so you can go crazy. Actually, today I think I saw on Twitter, and I don't know if I can search here geometry nodes, but anyway, it's the new hair system in 3.2 alpha. So people are doing this kind of crazy stuff. Look at what they're doing. They're using geometry nodes while using animation, playback animation. Look at that. So that's just amazing. That's for visuals, you know, like it's a VJ kind of concept. That's so cool. Tweak hair in real time while it's playing back. So yes, a great demo by RedJam9, and they've even been posting stuff lately. Anyway, again, this is now ready to be used. That's the difference. So this is actually done with geometry node. So this is the original object, curves being transformed, and this is a geometry. This is after going through geometry nodes. Of course, because if you want to do curly hair, you just don't add textures to the curve like you did in the past. You just use geometry nodes. You could argue that the old method is pretty I mean, you add a texture, so you just select the texture, and now you have to add a texture node, expose it, or a random value. But yeah, it's much more it's much more powerful. Is this hair nodes? Yes. Hey Jude, this is basically hair nodes. Hair are curves now, so these just are curve nodes. There is so regarding the curves, many more nodes moving into having converted into this new object type, and some of them even bring some performance improvements. For example, the tangent and the normal nodes now having converted, and they should be faster. I don't know how much faster, but just faster. There are more nodes though that have more tangible changes, like the curve to mesh node has been basically rewritten by Hans here, and the improvements are quite noticeable with many small curves. For example, around 4 to 5 times improvement from 5 milliseconds to less than seconds to less than 1 second when converting millions of curves to tens of millions of faces. So yeah, this is in seconds. That's quite big. It didn't observe any change in performance compared to 3.1 with fewer curves though. So the more curves you have, the better. Still, 3.1 had at some point I mentioned that 3.1, like the performance from 3.1 to 3.2, at some point it dipped, like it got worse because of this new system, but now it's been going back, and sometimes with even better performance than in the past. So yay for that, and flexibility that can be used for hair and other types of curve stuff. I think that's it for curve. No, actually I have one more related to curves, which is that the set material node now can be applied in the new curves type. So go nuts. The next update, this is a new overlay setting. This overlay, it allows you to see which attributes are used by a specific node or node group. So it's an overlay. You enable it from the settings, name attributes, and then it's gonna show which named attributes are being accessed by this node group or node. It's a bit ugly that it pops out there, but it's functional. I don't know how else though it could be done, if it's even maybe like it's a new icon that you could use, like an info icon, because maybe you want to add other types of information there. I don't know how this couples with the other. How does it, I mean, I'm not gonna do it now, but how does it couple with the other overlay for timing? So I know I don't have the thing set. And anyway, you have to set it from the user pref. Attribute overlays. Yeah, no, it's not really attribute overlays. I wish they were attribute overlays, like 3D viewport attribute overlays. This is just a way to see the attributes that are named attributes that are being used by a specific node, which is important because named attributes can have name collisions between independent node groups, which can lead to hard to find issues. So it is important to use. Maybe not the greatest or not the most elegant way of showing them. Next, the merge by distance node has a new option for connected. Basically allows you to filter the merge by connected island. It's not very cold. Islands. So Zilly, why English? Why do you have letters you don't pronounce? Sincerely, Spanish speaker. Italians too have letters that they pronounce everything. Next, the mesh line node now is much faster. How much faster? Well, around 4 or 5 times faster. Depends on the hardware because this is multi-threading, so the more threads you have, the better. And of course, this is with 5 million points. I guess if you don't have as many points, you're not gonna feel the difference as much. But yeah, from 50 milliseconds to 12 milliseconds. So yay for that. And the last but not least is a fix done by Leon, who now has commit access, by the way. So congrats, Leon, on that. Cheers. Commit access, like anyone can code, you know, like anyone can cook in Ratatouille. Well, anyone can code and anyone can contribute code to Blender. However, not everybody has access to actually pushing the change for everybody to use, right? It has to go through a review process, and then yeah, you can mess things up. Other people depend on Blender. Blender gets built automatically all the time, so running tests, so it has to go through some checks. And yeah, Leon now has access to commit whenever he wants, and of course all his commits go through review, but that's so cool. He doesn't have to wait for other developers to commit their changes. So yeah, the fix that he did, it's pretty awesome. So it was really broken. The multi-socket, like duplicating a multi-socket or adding node group inputs to a multi-socket socket. Now it works as expected, basically. So when you duplicate, it all becomes connected, and when you connect group inputs, it just works. It remembers. So thank you for that. Pablo, wake up. I am awake. Am I not? Am I asleep? I didn't have a great night's sleep last night. Okay, so how do we fix that? With water and with new features. So let's talk a little bit about Grease Pencil. Some weeks ago, I showed you the envelope modifier, this new modifier that kind of creates some lines between your strokes. The commit doesn't say much, it doesn't have a picture, doesn't have anything. So let's do it in like real time here. So I can even start with the 2D animation. Up. Okay, so let's say I have a line like this. The envelope modifier makes these drawings, actually if I increase the spread length and lower the thickness, it makes this kind of lines, connected lines between the strokes, right? So you have, if you want to do this, then you get this kind of shape. However, it can get very complex and it can be very heavy because basically connecting every point with every other point. So yeah, it can get heavy. Not anymore. There is an option called skip segments that allows you to, instead of going through every dot, like 0 is every point, 1 is every other point, every 2 points, every 3, and so on and so forth. So you can have a like you can have a bit more low res version of it. Next, cycles. Wait, hey, I skipped okay, cycles. So let's see what is new in cycles. Light groups are just a thing of the past now. We saw it 2 weeks ago. However, now since a week pretty much, actually since Monday. Was that the last time we did the live stream? Anyway, light groups from object. No, this was committed before I did the live stream, right before, so I didn't mention it, I think. But light groups now can, like object and world, can be part of a light group. So yay for that. So even easier. If you go to if you enable cycles, your render engine, go to the world in settings. No, wait. It's not viewport display. It's not ray visibility. It's in surface. Shouldn't it be in settings? Anyway, light group. This allows you to add a light group. And you can add a light group. You can't add any. Why is it grayed out? It looks like, it feels like it should add a new light group, right? Add a light group. However, it's not letting me do it. Why? I need to investigate. Oh, it did actually create a light group, but it didn't assign it. Come on. And it's grayed out. Okay, I found the bug. So basically the button is grayed out, so it looks like it wouldn't work, but it actually works. You can click it and then you don't see what's happening. So it's actually adding a bunch of light groups. So I think the fix would be, first, don't gray it out if it can be clicked. And then just, yeah, whenever you add a new one, just mark it as active, as a current one, right? Especially when there's none. Because if you add a new one, yeah, you have number 9 and then you add, it doesn't set it. Just a small glitch. Okay. Do you need lights? No, actually no. Thanks to this, now the world is a light group and objects can be light group, because you know you can have objects that emit light. So in theory, you shouldn't need to have any lights at all. Just select the object that has your emission and then add it to a light group. Okay. Let's see. Give it a name, then press the button. What? So I can give it a name. And then it becomes clickable. Ah, that's so bad. I mean, there's no indication that I can type one here. We need placeholders. You know, in HTML, placeholders, it's a amazing, super simple thing that allows you to have a grayed out, like a placeholder text, something that tells you, okay, I can add this kind of numbers. And it's just so handy. You don't need to have labels. In here, for example, you could say type or search, or here you could say search, or like this will be pretty nice. Anyway, next, let's see. Oh, this is just a change that is good. It's worth mentioning. So AOV passes in cycles used to always assume you had alpha value of 1 because it was just RGB, didn't have 4 components. So it was assuming alpha was 1. Not anymore. Now the AOV passes in cycles behave just like EV and have 4 components. And the last but not least in the cycle section is more of a PSA, is a public service announcement that the support for Vega and Vega 2 Radeon 7 GPUs on Windows has been reverted for the time being, because there is a bug apparently it's not really working at all, and there has to be a fix in the driver apparently, so that it's a bit outside of Blender's hand. So that should be fixed and then it will be enabled again. Okay, time to what else? How much do you have? Oh gee, I have so much more. Okay, I'm gonna hurry up. Let's talk about curves again. We talked about curves in the past, so let's talk about curves again. This is a bit of a recap what we saw before, but the curve menu now has these 2 options that I already showed you, but there is also new tools in the sculpt mode of curves. Now you can grow and shrink hair. This was possible already with the previous system. One feature that I like from the new system is that it has a minimum length setting that allows you to to basically prevent going into zero size or like very small hairs. In the old system, in the regular Blender system, like if you just add a regular particle system here, hair, you could shrink. I think it was called length, and then you could choose between grow and shrink. And yeah, you could go into like a too little size, not anymore. There should be a setting for that somewhere in the tool settings. Somewhere. Anyway. The next change, it's good that it was renamed, by the way, to grow shrink instead of length, because yeah, use the length to grow, use the length to shrink. It doesn't have a good ring to it. There is a new operator for snapping curves to the surface. It's called snap curves to surface, and it depends on the whatever you have selected. It will just place the curve at the, like if you want to, if you have a row hair going around and then you want to snap it to the surface, this is what you can use. It has two options, nearest and deform, and it's in the curves panel, curves menu, snap curve to surface. The operator to convert particle system, the old particle system hair into curves, now it's also exposed while you are in sculpt mode. It wasn't at the beginning. And the curve, the viewport drawing for curves has been ported into the new system, and now it should be back to the performance of 3.1 before the whole curve stuff. So would this close it? Would this close forever the difference in performance between 3.1 and the new one? Anyway, speaking of new stuff, painting. Well, someone was asking for painting news today, and we are actually having some news. We already talked about the color system, and now we're gonna talk about something similar but not so similar. There is an experimental option that brings this painting. It's called Sculpt Texture Paint, and it's similar to the concept of Sculpt Vertex colors, but this is pretty neat because, oh wait, I just had a message from Google that is kicking me out from the document that I used for. Interesting. Okay. Let me continue with this. Sculpt Texture Paint. The option that you enable in experimental will make it so when you are texture painting in sculpt mode, so you can go to sculpt mode, then paint, where paint, and then in paint you have a new option which is canvas, a new panel for canvas, and you can choose where to paint. So you can paint on an image, you can paint on the material like you could in the past, and then you can also paint a color attribute. So whatever color you have, as you can see, the UI is all green. There is things to fix here, and also you can't add new color attributes from here, which would be convenient. For the time being, you have to do it again. This is all experimental. This is not release material yet, and you have to add the color attribute from this panel and then tweak it from here. But it's pretty neat that you can just change from here or in the N panel under tool, and yeah, you choose color, material, or image. And this is extra exciting. If only I could okay, I'm trying to see if I can get back my list of features. Do I get it? Actually, I put it on the description of this video, so it should be fine. Okay, I got it back, guys. I'm ready. Next. No, I wanted to show you because actually this feature improvement by Jeroen actually has a pretty neat video where this feature is demo, where you can change between multiple modes, multiple colors, multiple textures, and they should all be like seamless. One paints on the texture, one paints on the pixels, like actual pixels, one paints on the vertices, and yeah, it's pretty neat. There is even related to that a performance improvement, because you know the most exciting part about Sculpt Vertex colors, it wasn't that you could sculpt and paint at the same time Vertex colors, but the most exciting part was the performance, that it was faster, much faster than the old Vertex color painting. So that system was using something that is called VVH, like PVVH, and that concept only worked on vertices, on geometry. Now that concept of speeding up things, it's also supporting pixels. What does it mean? It means faster painting, faster, like as fast as sculpting, but you can paint now in that speed. So this is pretty interesting, because this demo is actually painting on a large on a heavy mesh with also on a Mac Mini. So it's not like it's not being tested on a server equivalent. But yeah, it looks pretty neat. And I don't know how big is this mesh, but it looks fairly detailed though. The fact that you can just paint these maps there and see it in real time is just super exciting. And painting is finally getting some attention in Blender. So yay for that. Thanks Jorun for working on this, and he's actually continuously working on this, so it's focus point at the moment. So finally we might see the light in painting, the baking lights. Next, the next improvement on performance. Actually, let's talk about performance. The bounce calculation for deform modifier. So any modifier that deforms the mesh, so anything that is appeared here in the deform column, now should be faster. How much faster? Well, it depends on the modifier itself, but the calculation of the bounding box, which is something that's very like low level for Blender, is now faster. In some cases, even up to 10 times faster when calculating the minimum and maximum of a bounding box. So yay for that, for updates that cover everywhere, such as parallelize materializing arrays after field evaluation. What does it mean? Well, when you are creating an attribute, like an integer attribute based on an index field, now in this test going around 4 million vertices, it went from 3.5 to 1.2 milliseconds. Yay for that. The less milliseconds we have, the better. What other performance improvement? Well, when you are, all this is multi-threading stuff, so the more threads you have, the better. And in this case, it's twice as fast to create float attributes filled with the index. And the running time went from 4 milliseconds to 2 milliseconds. So yay for those things that is everywhere. When you create attributes all the time, so speed ups in that area, it just affects every day. It's like a quality of life improvement. Then the C++ importer, the version C++ version of the OBJ importer is now much faster. How much? Around twice as fast. In some cases, it even uses less memory while importing. So yeah, it was also tested on Windows and on Mac, on an M1 Max of 10 threads, and yeah, some quite heavy improvements, from 7.7 seconds to 3.1 on a Mac, on Windows from 12 to 6 seconds. So yeah, twice as fast. The next change is also a speed up when writing. Well, also it's a fix and a speed up. So the fix covers the problem of having the wrong polygon vertex groups in some cases. So it would map wrong basically. Apparently the Python add-on, it's used to be an add-on, so that the add-on was assuming too many things, and it was using the wrong vertex group to set. Now exporting a 6 times subdivided monkey mesh with 30 vertex groups went from 800 milliseconds to 330. So it's now also faster. Again, since 3.1.2, the default exporter is still the Python exporter. So if you want to get all these speed ups, make sure you check the new one. Like when you're using the experimental one, you go to File, Import, for example, and then you use the experimental version. What else? I think we can just talk about, it's a potpourri section. Let's talk about the potpourri section. The potpourri section covers a little bit of everything. For example, when you duplicate objects, the data, like you duplicate an object and the data within it gets duplicated as well. That's the default value for pretty much every data block in Blender. You can define when editing, you can define in duplicate data what data is going to be duplicated. For example, the materials is not. If you shift D an object, it's not going to make a new material. It's going to use the same material. So this is something that you tweak in this panel in the user preferences. Now there is options for point clouds and for curves. Yeah, for the new curve object. Another fix. This is just a fix, but it's a big one, I think. If you haven't used the sharp operator in like when you're painting, the color filter for sharpening, because you end up with some funky colors, that has been fixed. And yeah, it's good to see the development here going on, because you can see how many people are involved, like Tonatiuth de San Julian provided this video, and then also Omar provided this one. So it's good to see many people jumping in and helping in fix one feature. So another PSA KEYMAP, one other, actually we already mentioned one KEYMAP that's changed. A new KEYMAP has changed this week, which is the remove from local view. So if you are if for example you had a bunch of objects, right? Let's add a monkey here. So if you have a bunch of objects and then you went into local view with the slash or view local view, well, in this view there used to be a shortcut, actually from the old days, from 2.7 or even before 2.4 even, I think. You could remove objects from the local view, and the shortcut was M, because it was moved to collection, moved to layer in the past. That has been changed, so instead of slash it's going to be alt slash, which makes sense because it's usually what Blender, it's a convention Blender has for alt is the opposite of whatever action. So slash go into local mode, and then alt slash removes the object from local mode. Next, in the Python API side of things, the text editor now has set and get region text API. So you can get and set the selected text. Mainly useful if you're making add-ons or little scripts. Another improvement to the FBX exporter, there is now a new option in the limit to section that it allows you to limit it to the visible objects. It's a setting that will only export whatever is visible to match the GLTF exporter. So yay for making things consistent. The collection manager add-on, I don't usually talk about add-ons that much, but I know some people use this one. Collection manager now has a preference to disable the QCD display, I think it's quick content display widget in the header. So there is a new setting for that. A new fix has been done. I like to mention this one because it's pretty handy. If you ever notice how the Shift D, like to duplicate content, whatever elements you have selected, it depends on whatever part of Blender you are in. It could happen that you had nothing selected, but Shift D will still record an undo step, wasting memory and wasting undo steps. Not anymore. Now it just doesn't register it. And last but not least, I wanted to give I wanted just to mention first that for Apple users that things are progressing regarding EV viewport GPU using metal. There has been some commits for the third pass of the shader compatibility and even a fourth pass. So things are progressing. This is super nice to see things moving on. And the last change I have to mention this week is a shout out to Victoria Safiulina, who has fixed a typo in the tooltips of some of the camera settings. It used to save lens instead of focal length, and it's twice. Why a shout out for something? No, but it's so small. It's just the tooltips. Wait, fixing this means you have to compile Blender, so that already has a huge wall that you have to go. Then you have to go get over into for fixing this kind of stuff. And tooltips are very important. And again, I mentioned at the beginning of the show that the new support for tooltips for the node labels and node sliders and stuff, it needs this kind of work. So if you can join Victoria and anybody that is working on this kind of stuff, give it a try. Where to begin? Well, first search how to build Blender, and you're gonna get into the wiki page, building Blender, Linux, Windows, or whatever. And after you are through this, you get past this, you should be it should be good to go. And then it's just a matter of searching. Like the way I look into this kind of stuff is just either searching for either the Python name of things or the tooltip of things if this already existed. Okay, that it's all I think I have to talk about today. I have my t-shirt. I don't think this t-shirt is available, unfortunately. It's pretty cool, right? It even has Sprite Fright in the back. I don't know if we made this feature available, in the store. I think it was only for the crew. Yeah. Oh, well, shall we make it? The new default cube t-shirt is there, both for male and female models, and the same for the import BPY, the Blender logos, and the UV socks also there, plus some beanies. I know half the planet is going into winter at the moment. Half the planet is getting spring, luckily. Some are going into winter, so maybe it's a good moment to... I'll take your shirt, thanks. No, I have only one. You know what? I helped in Tears of Steel, and I didn't get a Tears of Steel hoodie. I'm gonna miss that. Whatever. Okay. Shirts are the best feature, yes. Oh, questions. Is there any question, by the way? Let's see. Blender.Today, the website, the community, the place, new color. Actually, there is 10 comments. Let's see. You know, you can embed videos, by the way. I give you a little tip. If you get this code and then you type YouTube and then paste the ID of the video, it's gonna embed it. I should add it here, right, to the info. But anyway, this makes it. There you go. Okay, that's it actually. Let's go through some of the questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna feel bad if I don't do any questions today. It's a bit warm and I need to go do the live stream in Spanish, but let's do it. I'm gonna start with the top, which has the most votes. So Viac says, hi Pablo, hi people. Here is a topic. Pure colors for wireframe. It's just one example, but I have feeling that developers think that such things are just cosmetic or so. No, they're not cosmetic. I've been involved in this. I am a subscriber. I gave a thumbs up. I even gave an example where it should go. It's just other things got on the way. What was the last things that got on the way? Can I have my pure colors? No. This patch is it's approved, as in like functionality is approved. It's not just a yeah, overlooked. I need to remind Jeroen, if you're watching, maybe we can talk about this. I don't know exactly why it didn't move forward, but this is approved to be in Blender. Yes, sometimes other things get on the way. I mean, it's the same developer that is working on it, the same that is working on the faster paint mode in the ones that I show you, the painting the canvas, the paint on any canvas. That's the, you know, so it's understandable. So like we that are involved in Blender, developers and stuff, it's easy to see. It's like, oh, this must be stuck because now this developer is working on something else. But yeah, from the user point of view, it's like, oh, Blender doesn't care. No, it's just that there's not enough people. You know what? Speaking of which, Blender Development Fund, I know this is an ad, but I wanted to share that last week we added this section to the Blender Development Fund that shows you who renewed their gold membership, who, yeah. We thought that the Blender Development Fund website was a bit dead. Not dead in the sense that nothing's happening. Actually, people are subscribing and we're getting more people and it's great. But there wasn't any life to it, you know, right? You would just see the money changing, but you couldn't see much. So now you can actually see the latest updates and see everything. Like Mundo Desconocido renew their gold membership, and Designs, Lars, Michael, like someone for the actually you can choose to have your name exposed or not. This is not a privacy concern because you as a Blender Development Fund member, you can choose if you want your name. Hey, Zacarias renew from CG Boost. Look, so cool. CG Cookie also renewed the other day. Hard Ops, Box Cutter, Team C renew one of their many, because actually I think they have many. Last time I checked, they had like 3 of them. Anyway, yeah, they have 1 diamond, 1 titanium, and 1 platinum, and 1 gold. Nice. Okay. Let's continue. So I'm interested. Do dev discuss it seriously? Yes, they discuss it seriously. They have someone inside developer team. Okay, so I already answered this. Are there plans to update the workbench at least to the level of Blender 2.79 quality? What do you mean by quality? I think the quality of the workbench is beyond 2.79, right? It has depth of field, paint, curvature, cavity shading. Yeah, similar one. Outline, ruin, silhouette, and can't be 1 pixel width. This is a back report. So there is a back report. Next. Hey, Jeroen actually mentioned 6 minutes ago. This is the developer. We think it's important. That is the reason why we ask community effort to help with these improvements. The main issue is that there are hundreds of features for every developer working on Blender. You heard it first. This actually, I didn't know. Thanks, Jeroen, for answering. But yes, I told you again, one developer might be working on 5 different areas of Blender or even more. So Jeroen has been working on performance. So if Blender is faster nowadays, it's like the image editor faster thanks to him. So working just too many things. So if you haven't already, consider joining the development fund, and if you think other people might find it useful, Would be cool to get this number 2.9, no, 2,900. We still haven't reached the 3,000. That would be a good number. Ideally, it was for Blender 3, but maybe before 3.2, maybe we can achieve. Blender has 18, last year had 18 million downloads. And still less than 3,000 people contributing. It's a I don't know in number, I don't know in math, but it's quite a difference. Quite a, how do you call it? Ratio. Hi Pablo, hope you're having a wonderful night. Still daylight likely. Is there any chance of getting some CAD tools like this? Now 200 people have asked for tools like this in right click select, fingers crossed. Full CAD drawing toolset. So it starts with any feature request that starts with full. It's already by definition asking for a lot. I don't know exactly what. This is a whole new mode. Edit mode, drawing, tools, grouping the tools. Yeah, this is an entire new mode. And I think, and by the looks of it, it's done with a screenshot of Blender 2.8 alpha. And maybe this is kind of related to the new modes that Blender is getting. You know, there is a new mode for retopology. So there was a discussion at some point of having a special mode for CAD modeling, like more precise modeling. But I mean, 200 people saying yes to this, it's a lot. But yes to what? To one feature, to 5 features, to all the features. Unfortunately, just listing the features there doesn't explain exactly how is it going to work in practice. Like the tools here, usually they have a gizmo. How does a gizmo look? How does it react? So this should be a project on its own and should be split into smaller features, into smaller, like one tool by tool requests, because I don't know if 200 people are they all agree with all of the tools. You know what I mean? Huge project, make it smaller and start with specific tools that are needed. I love the mesh snap utilities add-on, but it doesn't rotate when you start drawing, and use the middle mouse button to rotate like the knife tool. A small rotate update there would be fantastic. Yeah, there, for example, this is the one specific issue that should be fixed, and this is how things should be tackled. Just specific one feature requests. Daniel Lapalm asks, hey Paulo, happy long weekend, hope everything is awesome for you. Thank you. Yeah, long weekend. The Netherlands needs 3 things: alfajores with the Argentinian dessert, mountains, and more holidays. It has like 4 or 5 days a year, and bridge holidays like we have in Argentina and in Spain. I remember a long time ago you were talking about a feature for rendering that allowed you to progressively render and output images at various progressions for samples. This is great for deciding what number of samples you want. Just leave it and come back. Did anything happen to that? I think at the time you had to use the command console to make it work. Yeah, that's still the case. That feature, for a while it went away and then it came back. It was just not feature full. Yeah, at some point it broke and it was removed, but now since 2 releases, I think, it's back. It's now available. You can find them in the terminal if you go to, if you search for VPY ops cycles, maybe the noise animation, merge images. Yes, merge images. I think this is the one that you can render with different start samples, and that should give you like which sample count you start. Basically sample offset, there you go. You can offset which number of samples, so you can render one with 100 to 200 and then from 200 to 400 and then merge those images using this operator. I think that's what you mean. And of course, there is render farm systems that allow you to like Flamenco, Blender Studios render farm that allows you to render chunks and then merge those together. So you can have, if you have 5 computers, you can render 10 samples on each and then merge them. Okay, let's see. This doesn't have any votes, so maybe I should start by the ones that are in the bottom. Let's see, because I'm already here. Hi Pablo, what do you know about the unified physics conversation that are happening internally? Do you think it would be a good idea to have multi-input on the math mix? Okay, these are 2 different questions. Do you know about the unified physics conversations? I don't know anything about it actually, besides the fact that it will be good that happens, but I missed that. In which module is that happening? I need to ask the guys. The next question, do you think it would be a good idea to have multi-input on the math mix node so that you could add, multiply multiple unlimited inputs instead of having a mixed node for every pair of inputs? Yeah, I guess for some cases like adding, right, the order doesn't matter, to have multiple. For some cases it would make sense. Subtract. Okay. Hi Paulo, does the new spline types development mean we will have to render splines directly in the form of hair with no need to sweep geometry along them? Yes, you will be able to. Like actually rendering the spline. I think cycles allows you to do that already. If you have cycles, you should be able to. In the curves, not only hair, you can choose the shape, 3D curve and ribbons, and this will create, around the hair is going to create a shape. And is that the case already? Like if I am in cycles and I add a random hair, yeah, it's already visible. And this just says they are just hair, they don't have any width. So yeah, you can already. Let's oh, actually there is, Yaron has been answering more. Where is the code for the add mesh items in the source code? That's so cool. Yaron answering here. Okay, let's go to the bottom and answer as many as I can. Hey Pablo says, hey pictures, hey, I saw your tutorial. If hey picture has been making on YouTube, he has making tutorials for light groups and stuff, so you should check it out. Super nice to have tutorials on geometry nodes. Like he has one that goes through all the curve nodes in geometry nodes, and it's pretty neat. You should check it out. Next, and now the comment is like, Blender sucks, I'm gonna stop using it. No, and I just promote the channel anyway. Hey Pablo, I hate pictures. I made a material pack and I have a problem with the shader nodes. I have grouped all the node trees of the materials into groups. I have grouped all the node trees into groups. Okay, but the problem is that I can't find a center or something like that in the shader nodes, because every time I go to a new material, I have to press A to select everything, because they're our group. Is there a way to centering things like group or nodes in the shader nodes? That is a good question. There should be an operator, right? Yes, there should be a snap. Like, what if I do Shift S here? No, geometry, no, node wrangler, that stuff. No, there should be like a snap, right? Like a snap to center, like the same here, like Shift S, and there is a snap to world, no, curves to world origin, nodes to editor origin or something like that. Yeah. Another thing we need is the actual indicator of where we are in space. I made a patch for that time ago, and then I didn't go back to it. I had a little cross in the center, but I think I had like a this, which I think it looked cool, but yeah, if you're here, you need to know where. So I wanted to continue and have it like this. And yeah, that I haven't get to do it yet. If anybody can help, That would be awesome. Yeah, snapping again. It's I would love a feature like that. My second, it should be very simple. Like move all the nodes with the offset, Shift S or something, and then just, yeah. Home and numpad, yeah, but you have to click on home. Actually, you know what? I added a pie menu for that. The view pie menu, this view pie menu has a frame all. So if you want to quickly get to where the nodes are, you can press the tilde key, which in the, yeah, the same one that you use here for moving in the view or view selected view camera. This it's here. It's a new operator that I added in 3.1. Okay. My second question, can we expect someone that we can expose more sockets out of groups in shader nodes like checkboxes or even the color ramp slider? In geometry nodes, the group functions are much more advanced. Some of them can be ported over like integers or booleans. A lot of people and content creators need that. Yes, yes, I mean, I say yes, as in I would love to. I think the main one, the ramp, the color ramp, this will be amazing. Like having this plug out of here, that has been a feature request by everyone since day one. I don't think it's very easy to implement. Not even like, we don't even have for booleans, we don't have boolean in here even, right? No, not even. Yeah, like the outputs for the groups, like it's a boolean type, but yeah, it should be a checkbox, right? Well, an attribute, but you could choose between the attribute or the line or the point. Like endpoint selection has, I think, yeah, no, it has, no, this is not a boolean. Anyway, I really hope we can have that, but I don't think it's very straightforward to add. Maybe now that we have people working on the sockets themselves, maybe that could be prioritized. But yes, I'm with you. And would it be awesome to use the multi-socket on other nodes like node math? Yes, like it was mentioned, it will use the operator of the hierarchy of the plugged in values. Yes, I would definitely vouch for that too. If anybody works on it, I will thumbs up. Actually, that was the last question. There's one by Sansuls, and then we call it a day because it's almost 7 o'clock. Wow, sorry. 1:24. Okay. It's been 2 weeks. Worth it. There is a very simple feature Sansuls asked. 3 questions actually. 1. Will we get groups in Blender as in collection groups? Yes. Yes, it's a conversation that I think everybody agrees on that we should have. The thing is that it should be part of collections, right? Blender already has the concept of collection, so having the concept of collection groups, it would make sense. It's just a different type of collection, and it has its own origin, its own everything. You can select them more easily. I think it makes sense. We discussed this multiple times, but it's a project on its own. There is a very simple feature that's not in Blender that's basically keeping the edge flow while adding loop cuts. There is an add-on for that, but since it's just one simple feature, will we have that in Blender? Since Blender is definitely known for being the best DDC for modeling, really. With a bunch of add-ons, I guess, or without. So the keeping the edge flow while adding loop cuts, that would be awesome. I mean, who made the add-on? Get in touch with the person who made the add-on and ask them to add it in Blender instead. Unless they're, I don't know, making a living of the add-on and this will put them on the street. Hopefully they can. It would be great if that would contribute. I think no one will argue. And the next, current light group feature is great, and future light linking and groups definitely need a separate UI or window in the future. A window? Why separate UI? The current way of doing it was getting confusing and messy once you have more than 10 lights in the scene. And thanks and have a nice day. Also, do I contribute to the development of Blender? That is, after asking 3 feature requests, asking the 4th question to be how to contribute to Blender. It's fantastic. It's the best thing. Or it's a good way of making yourself look good as well. So if you want to, like, let's see what happens if I just Google for this. How do I contribute? You should go to the wiki. Get involved. That's actually, wow, look at that. If you just search, how do I contribute to the development of Blender? The first link is get involved, which is a bit too broad. A bit of everything. I even highlight this section. And then it sends you to the developer section where you can see everything. Yeah, how do I get started, reporting bugs, get in touch, Google Summary of Code, everything. You can even go to the wiki, process contributing code, and here, yeah, just shows everything. If you are new to the Blender code, you may want to check on like good first issue. Let's see if there is a first issue. It's in some of these pages. You should Google for it. There's Blender first issues, and that way you can find something that the developers have already marked as it's approved development, that it's needed for Blender, and also can be achieved by someone that's not super familiar with the code yet. And with that, the add-on is free. Oh, the add-on is free, so even more of a reason. You know, I think we should push is a bad word, not push, but like motivate add-on developers to contribute that code into Blender. Sometimes maybe, I guess, especially if they made the add-on free and available for everyone, it means that they are not really looking into like making a living out of it. It's just they want the feature in Blender. But maybe contributing to Blender feels like too far away, like too impossible. It's not really. You just make a patch, you put it out for review by following the pages that I just showed you, and you get a code review for free. You get developers with years, decades of experience looking at your code and giving you feedback. It's a win-win. You learn, you commit, and then you're helping millions of people. Isn't it great? You know what else is great? That we are wrapping this up. I'm going to switch into my Spanish mode. I'm gonna be doing this same live show in Spanish, so I need to wrap it up. But wait, now let me check if next week is a regular week, because these weeks are being a bit crazy. Okay, next week, oh wow, next week we have Thomas Dinges in the studio. It's Pablo's birthday, and there is Blender.Today at 5 p.m. So a bunch of stuff. My calendar is busy. Wow, awesome. Let's call it a day, and let's hang out again. When? Next week. Same place, of course, same time on a Monday. So we are back to Monday, our regular schedule this week. Yesterday was a holiday here in the Netherlands. I forgot to mention, but yeah, there was a holiday. In some countries, the holidays are on the week before. In the Netherlands, on the week after. Let's wrap it up and do it again. Same place next week. Watch your ear holes if you are wearing headphones, because it's gonna get loud in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I wasn't really that loud, right? Okay, thanks everyone. Have a fantastic week. Blend away. Get the build bot, experimental builds, try it, test it. By the way, we have 10 days. Less than 10 days before Blender 3.2 goes into beta, which means 3.3 alpha, which means preparing for the release. Not gonna say anything. Lots of cool stuff ahead. Stay tuned. Enjoy. Happy blending. Have a great week. Bye.